and welcome to our final all-staff meeting of 2017. I'm City Manager Jane Brodigam, and with me is Communication Director Patrick von Kaiserling.
And we have a lot to share as we wrap up 2017 and plan for 2018. And so we're going to talk about a couple of updates from the election last month and a couple other current projects that may be of interest to everyone.
Yes, and we are going to be speaking with Kendra Tupper, who's our new Chief Sustainability Officer, and Sarah Huntley will also join us to talk about community engagement. And honestly, I just have to go off script and say you are going to love the videos today. They are awesome.
Nothing like hyping them up.
No.
So speaking of videos, of course, we also have our on-the-job segment and the employee news. So there's a lot of things to cover today. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in.
Thanks. So my piece of this is to talk a little bit about the election that we had last November, only a month ago. It feels like a year ago. So we had a couple of ballot measures, but we also had, excitingly, some changes on the City Council. So joining us new on City Council are 3 new council members. So let me get them in order. Jill Adler-Grano, Mirabai Cook-Nagel, and Cindy Carlisle were sworn in November 21st, and they're replacing Matthew Applebaum, and Matt was a council member for many, many years, and Andrew Shoemaker, who chose not to run again, even though he only served 1 term. So another thing that happened is that we had a question on the ballot related to the community culture and safety tax, and that tax passed overwhelmingly. That's the tax that has helped us build the beautiful civic area that we have out here and that we brought the fences down on most recently. So that's a really great tax, and it's helping the city and community nonprofits to really provide great opportunities for the community, and we're really happy that it passed so overwhelmingly.
And speaking of the civic area and the fences coming down, we know there's been an inconvenience for a lot of you who work downtown, so thank you very much for working around the construction and all the fences. We're wrapping up this phase and opening up the playground very soon. And then the next phase is going to be on the east bookend, which is over by 13th Street, where you'll see the Dushanbe Tea House, the Atrium Building, other city offices. And there's been some talk about maybe that would be a farmer's market. So there'll be a lot more coming on that in the next phase.
Yeah, so another ballot item to talk about is the ballot item related to Boulder's energy future. As you may know, for a number of years, we've been working on putting forward our climate commitment and trying to work with Xcel to purchase the assets of their system so that we can provide electricity to our own community. That ballot measure was very close. It passed by only 1,000 votes. And so we're very mindful of the fact that not everyone in the community appreciated that ballot issue, but we do know that everyone in the community cares a lot about our climate commitment. And we are very focused on achieving the results that we've established, which would be to have an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050 and 100% renewables by 2030. So those are big goals that we want to achieve, and the municipalization effort is going to help us there. There are a number of employees in the city that are working on this, and I join them in being excited about the fact that we get to move on in the process and hopefully establish the electric utility we've been hoping for.
And with so much talk the last couple of months about the electric utility and the election process, people may not remember that was only one part of our overall climate sustainability initiative. So we've promoted Energy Services Manager Kendra Tupper to become our new Chief Sustainability Officer. So congratulations on your new role.
Thank you.
And it's, I guess, about exactly a year ago tomorrow that Council adopted its climate initiatives. And maybe you could share with us why that's such a significant step.
Absolutely. Thanks, and thanks for having me here. So we're all very aware of climate change and the fact that years of human activity, like burning coal, oil, and gas, have resulted in warming the Earth's atmosphere. And with all the hurricanes this year and then the 2013 flood right here in Boulder, it's becoming more and more apparent that climate change is already happening. So we really need to rapidly transition from fossil fuels to clean, renewable energy. And that's one of the reasons why the climate commitment was such a significant step. So our climate commitment is really the overarching strategy for how we're going to achieve that transition here in Boulder, and it lays out 4 key goals that Council adopted last December of 2016, 2 of which Jane mentioned already. The 80% community-wide reduction in carbon emissions by 2050, and then achieving a 100% renewable electricity supply by 2030. The other 2 goals One is to install 100 megawatts of local renewable power within the community by 2030. And then the last one is to achieve an 80% reduction in citywide organization carbon emissions by 2030. So we want to lead by example and reduce city facility and operational emissions 20 years sooner than we're asking the community to do so.
So a lot of big, lofty goals, so which I guess begs the question, where does the sustainability framework come into play and how do we do that?
Yeah. So our sustainability framework takes a very broad view and spells out the guiding principles for achieving a successful and well-balanced community. And so it's broken down into 4 main areas: good governance, social, economic, and environmental. And good governance ensures stewardship, transparency, and compliance in everything that we do. And then within social, it includes 4 goals. So we want to have a community that's safe, healthy and socially thriving, livable, and then finally accessible and connected. And economically vital is really about achieving financial balance, encouraging innovation, and having a vibrant and inclusive job market. And then the last category, environmentally sustainable, that's probably what most employees think of when they hear the term sustainability. And that encompasses the climate, energy, and zero waste work that happens within the Climate and Sustainability Division, as well as the work on our forming a municipal utility that's done by our Energy Future team, and then a lot of other efforts that are embedded within other departments like planning, our water utility, open space and mountain parks, and parks and rec.
So are there some specific environmental projects you could tell us about?
Absolutely. So Boulder's climate commitment guides our work in 3 action areas: so energy, resources, and ecosystems. And we've already talked about how the main goal with energy is to transition from fossil fuels to clean, renewable energy. And in resources, we're trying to minimize the environmental impacts that are associated with material, water, and food consumption in our community. This includes the zero waste efforts like recycling and composting that are led by the zero waste team within climate and sustainability. And it also includes our water utilities, conservation efforts, and even the work that our Chief Resiliency Officer, Greg Guibert, is doing on food systems. Ecosystems focuses on our ability to support, protect, and preserve our natural ecosystems, and also their ability to sequester carbon. And much of that work actually happens outside of climate and sustainability. For instance, OSMP studies everything that's growing in our protected lands and identifies steps that we need to protect species that are being threatened. And then within our planning department, there's other efforts being driven like integrated pest management and also our pollinator program, which exists to protect native bees and other insects.
So if we go back to energy for a second, can you talk to us about how the city's municipalization plan fits into sustainability?
Sure. So municipalization is the city's primary strategy for achieving that incredibly important goal of 100% renewable electricity by 2030. But there are differences in funding and organizational structure. And so the Climate and Sustainability Division, or CNS, is housed within PHS, Planning, Housing, and Sustainability. And we work on climate, energy, and zero waste efforts. And that work is funded by 2 voter-approved taxes. One is the Climate Action Plan tax, and the other is the trash tax. So the Energy Future team is a special project that exists outside the typical department structure and is funded by the recently extended utility occupation tax. That team works on forming the municipal electric utility that Jane was talking about. But all of the teams collaborate closely on energy strategy and then pilot projects as well.
So as our new Chief Sustainability Officer, what's on your plate in addition to having to be our spokesperson at all staff?
So there are 2 main aspects that I do with this role. So the first is I oversee the staff, the work, and the strategies for the Climate and Sustainability Division, which includes about 10 employees. And then next, once we backfill my previous role, from a citywide perspective, I'm going to dive into working on the broader vision of sustainability beyond just the environmental sustainability work and help to try and operationalize the sustainability framework. So that means updating the framework and also helping to develop a toolkit that will help implement this framework in projects, master planning efforts, and budgeting efforts. So I'm going to work with Julia Richmond, who's our Chief Innovation Officer and also our interim Chief Information Officer, to develop metrics for the categories in the framework. and then also work closely with our Chief Resiliency Officer and Chief Diversity Officer to make sure that those priorities are reflected in the framework as well.
So you have a few things on your plate.
A few.
And I'm wondering, how does it impact your role when the current White House administration rolls back climate initiatives?
Yeah, it's really fun. It's great. We love when that happens. So on the one hand, it creates a lot of extra work for us. So there was a period in the fall where it seemed like every day there was a new budget cut that was being proposed, new legislative rollbacks, pulling out of the Paris Agreement, et cetera. And so for every new proposal that happens, we have to take the time to discuss, come up with a formal statement and position, either for ourselves, for the city, but often in collaboration with many other cities and organizations that we're part of, and put forth formal statements to commit to uphold the goals to the extent that we can, or formally lobby for the prevention of these legislative rollbacks. On the positive side, it's reinforced the crucial role that local governments have in this energy transformation, and partially because of that, we've received access to more funding than ever because coalitions and leading cities like Boulder are now being looked at to the leaders in this transition rather than the federal government. So that's been exciting.
So a little higher profile role for the city.
Yeah.
So what types of tips could you give folks who might want to be involved in sustainability efforts? What can we do every day?
Sure. So I would suggest going to Boulder at Work and checking out the community newsletter article called Reflecting on 2017. So it highlights staff's accomplishments in 2017 broken down by the sustainability framework areas. And then more updates and resources on the framework will be coming in 2018. And then you can also check out our climate commitment website. It gives a really holistic look at all the work that we're doing across those three areas of energy, resources, and ecosystems. And you can dive into more programmatic details and download our climate commitment document, which is a really fun read. I highly recommend it. And then keep an eye on Be Connected, which comes out every other week for significant news and now includes sustainability tips that everyone can implement at home and at work. We started including these tips in Be Connected because it's up to each one of us as individuals to take critical actions to ensure a sustainable future.
And I'm sure everybody watches for Be Connected in their email, but for those of you who may not read it, that's our city employee newsletter that covers everything from HR issues to big initiatives. So Kendra, thank you very much for joining us today. We obviously covered a lot of material, a lot more things to do in 2018.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so a lot more things to cover yet today, a lot of things going on. So I'm going to invite us to watch the Employee News Update with Annie Zaruba and see what's happening around the city.
Hello, and welcome to the Employee News Update. I'm Annie Zaruba from the communication team. With just 3 weeks left until the end of the year, this is the final employee news update of 2017. The fences are officially down in Boulder's civic area. This marks the completion of phase 1 of our 13-acre downtown transformation. Along with other enhancements, you'll find improved connectivity to the creek and several new plazas, 50% more lighting, and a wider multi-use path. The new nature play area is opening soon, with landscaping and other enhancements coming this spring. And while you're out exploring, lace up the skates and join the community ice skate, and mark your calendars for the Snow Much Fun Winter Festival on December 16th. The Boulder Leadership Academy is a new city program for developing, engaging, and empowering employee leaders. It's based on feedback you guys gave us during leadership philosophy forums and on employee engagement surveys. The first 15 participants began attending sessions in September, and they meet as a group once a month until April. During each session, they explore topics like managing oneself, effective communication, and accountability. Here's what some of them have to say.
To me, to be a leader is to engage employees and empower them.
To be a leader, something that really stands out for me is the need or the want to improve.
My name is Liana Dulce. I'm a public works admin and I work out of the FAM office.
I'm Chad Brotherton, Trail Stewardship Supervisor, Open Space and Mountain Parks. So the Leadership Academy is an 8-month program. We meet up once a month to discuss the teachings of the Drucker Institute and also look at the programs in the city and how they're interconnected and work on development of our leadership skills.
I think that it's providing us skills for employees on every level, not just supervisors, but it's showing all of us that we can be a leader and giving us the tools. Every time we go to the class, something is surprising or you learn something new.
We've been focusing on effective communication, creating a vision for our team.
One of the most memorable exercises that we've done was reading off our 100 ideas.
Really interesting to see what ideas come out and what is working for people in their situation and what is not, what lessons they've learned. That kind of brainstorming across departments is really refreshing. And I've definitely found it very useful. Some of those ideas are really great and have wanted to implement some of those since hearing some of them. So it's been very useful, I would say.
We've made a not to-do list in the class and checked off things not to do anymore and see if your work has improved, and it actually has for many of us.
You know, I'm finding that my day-to-day is feeling more efficient because of these little changes that I'm critiquing my actions a little bit more. I'm taking the time to think about it, and I'm trying to make slight adjustments in my day-to-day to make improvements, and it feels like it's happening.
New and exciting things are in store for our Employee Wellbeing at Work program. A new website launching soon will be your one-stop shop for well-being news, articles, events, and more. You'll have access to challenges and programs, whether you're at home or at work, using your computer or smartphone or other devices like Fitbits. And stay tuned in January for the launch of Wellbeing Wednesday events. Until then, you can contact your Wellbeing Coordinator, Ashley Tracy, with your ideas and questions. Between work emails, mailing list subscriptions, and an occasional message from a Nigerian prince, sometimes you need help managing your inbox. But you don't have to wait for your daily Mimecast alert to arrive. You can install the Mimecast plugin from your computer's software center to get immediate control over what you choose to permit or block. Here's everything you need to know about the tool with full instructions on Boulder at Work.
Phishing attack successful.
We got someone else to give up their password.
Let's turn into cash.
Let's add it to the pile.
Hey, let's try the city of Boulder.
That will be worth a ton of money.
A boat.
A plane.
A complete set of state quarters.
Charging the systems.
Let's do it!
From IT Health Department to all employees. Dear employee, your account needs to be reset in 3 days or your data is erased. Please click this link to enter your password. IT Help Desk.
Send it!
Phishing attack failed.
What?
You know, you don't have to be a super spy to foil evil masterminds. With the Mimecast spam filter for Outlook, you have control over which emails you block and which ones you let through. You can install the Mimecast plugin in your computer's software center. You'll still receive the update emails you're used to, and you'll also have control over blocking and permitting messages right from Outlook 2016. You can even alert us if a phishing email does manage to get through to your account. Information and instructions for getting started are all available on Boulder at Work. So what are you waiting for? Let's stop the bad guys in their tracks. End transmission.
Speaking of technology, have you ever forgotten your password and needed to reset it? IT has a new feature that can help. Contact Logan Priest to learn more and get set up for self-serve password reset. So far, several city departments have enrolled, and you never know when it will save you in a pinch. That's all for this employee news update. Remember to email employeenews1@bouldercolorado.gov if there's something you'd like to learn more about next time. Happy holidays, and see you in 2018.
So this is no lie. My daughter asked me for a colander for Christmas, and now I know that there are many uses for the colander.
I don't even know what to say. But I will just throw out there as a little teaser, that's not the best video yet. So
That's
don't
true.
leave.
That's right.
So,
Okay, oh yeah, so on we go. So next month is our annual City Council retreat, where our full City Council gets together for 2 days to shape our work plan and their work plan for the year ahead, and actually their work plan for 2 years. I'd like to jump back a couple of years and provide an update on something that happened 2 years ago at the council retreat in 2016. At that time, they asked the city manager's office to begin working on developing a citizen engagement strategy. And we had many meetings, and Patrick himself was one of the people that was most involved in it, in which we worked with a group of city residents that were facilitators and regular people, just lots of folks that really care about citizen engagement. So we're going to talk a little bit about how it all began. So Patrick, since you were involved, say more.
So it was a lengthy process where, I think we had 30 of our best evening meetings for 18 months. And my colleague, Jean Gotza from the Planning Department, was our co-advisor on that. Because there were several issues with what the community thought about engagement and some misunderstandings, we really put together a couple of problem statements that we were trying to address. And I'll just read those for you. This is what guided the work group the whole year. So some of it was, some members of the public do not trust city decision-making processes. Some members of the public do not understand how public engagement and decision-making processes work. Boards and commissions and working groups have broad discretion over how they engage the community, and it further complicates the public engagement process. Excuse me, and constructive public conversations don't always occur often enough, and that can lead to frustration of the community not feeling heard. And then finally, the city's agenda is just too broad for the community to absorb everything. So
My personal favorite.
it was mine too, and I suggest we correct that one right away, but we'll see where it goes. So anyway, council's realization that there were some significant problems with how we're doing engagement for the community really kicked off what led to a public participation work group, which had 2 staff representatives on it, myself and Jean Gotza, a council member, Lisa Morzell, and then 14 representatives from our community who were helping to address what are the current issues, how do we define them, and how do we move forward with defining what might be best-in-class practices for engagement, because Boulder is already known as one of the cities in the country that does engagement really well, but in Boulder, we can always do a little bit better. So we spent 18 months talking about that and looking at best practices that we could implement here. And they really came down with about 2 big issues when they presented to council on August 28. And that was changing the culture of public engagement and utilizing comprehensive decision-making processes. And by changing the culture, they mean for both the way the community reacts to city staff and how the city staff delivers engagement processes. So before we go on and really dive into what our new engagement strategy is going to look like, we want to show a video of what some of you may have experienced through the city's current engagement processes and how that might change going forward.
All right, fans, we're moments away from Team Boulder's Community Engagement Tournament. Let's make some noise.
Let's do this! Yeah! I'm so fired up!
Wait,
Ooh, it's not looking good for Team Boulder. They may want to change that strategy.
I know you're tired. I know you're overwhelmed. Trust me, I know how you feel. Easy, easy now. This isn't working. We're going to have to do something differently. But don't worry, because this time we're going to have a plan. You're going to have dedicated resources to consult on your key projects and toolkits to support your developing engagement ideas. We'll have consistency, processes, and clear decisions. And you know what's going to happen? We're going to have improved community satisfaction, more strategic thinking, better inclusivity, and clarity of our ideas. So we can all be better decision makers. Let's do this together.
Boulder's engagement team is launching a new citywide strategy to inform and involve the community. We're expecting a much stronger team and fan support in 2018.
So for those of you who are chuckling because you didn't have to do the video, in everybody's job description is just a little sentence that says other duties as assigned. That's it. So, okay. Moving on, we have our new engagement manager, Sarah Huntley. Sarah used to be our deputy director of communications and has volunteered to move over and lead our new engagement strategy. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm really excited to be taking on this challenge and collaborating with others to create a new engagement program for the city.
So for those of us in the audience and watching online, what is this new process and how's it going to look? If I went off... These are questions I want answers to.
Okay, so the public participation working group, in addition to outlining problems, they also helped us chart the way to beginnings of solutions. So what you're seeing behind me on the screen, I hope, is 4 core principles and values of good engagement that they came together to really embrace and have us guide our efforts by having clear understanding of what's going on. So the areas that they talked about is that the program is clearly defined. Public engagement is thoughtfully planned, so we're actually going to have strategic plans in writing on how we're going to engage with the community. All voices are encouraged and included. Public contribution and civil participation are fostered, and the process is trustworthy and transparent.
So if we use this as the foundation for engagement, does that mean every item is going to look like this for the ideal engagement process?
So this is a best practice approach that can work for any engagement project, and we probably should talk a little bit about what the approach is. Can you pull up the 9s? There you go. Okay. We're going so out of order, but anyway, we'll get it done. So this here is what we're calling the decision-making wheel, and this was something that the PPWG developed, and I think it's one of the most valuable contributions of their work. And it talks about how we in the City of Boulder are going to make decisions together with our community. And it's going to be a step-by-step process. So it starts with defining the issue before we even embark. So does everybody understand why we're looking at the issue at hand, what the issues are we're trying to address by considering options for different approaches, and what are the limits and constraints that we might have on actually being able to influence change with that issue. It then goes into who's determined and really who's affected, so we really make sure that we are targeting engagement and input opportunities to people who care about the issue and who might have some of the biggest impacts. Creating a public engagement plan, which I talked about as being a core component of something that we'll be doing consistently. There are certainly examples where people in the city have done this well in the past, but we're trying to be more coordinated and consistent about it. Sharing a foundation of information and inquiry, identifying the options and evaluating those options together, that's probably the zone where we would have the most engagement. And then making a decision, communicating that decision and the rationale, which we don't always do such a great job at, and then reflecting and evaluating on how the process went so that we can make sure that other processes, additional processes, learn from all of the teachings that we had from the previous processes. It is a best practice approach that can work for any engagement project. We realize that it's a new approach, so we're probably going to have to phase it in. The other factors that we're going to be considering is what are our participation goals and what are we promising to the community when we engage. Can you pull up the spectrum slide, please? Okay, so we're going to be following practices from the International Association of Public Participation. Who knew there was such a thing, right? So they really study best practices and have a curriculum and tools that cities can use and adapt to their own cultures to make better decision making with the community. So this spectrum talks about the fact that we will be making decisions about how we're going to engage with people. And there might be several different levels we'll do during a process. Most of our processes are divided into phases, right? So it's pretty common in your first phase of a new decision-making process to want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on and has a foundation of information. And so you might be in this category on the left, which is inform, which really means the communication is on us. It's one-way communication that we're pushing to the community so that we're all starting from a common understanding. On the other end of the spectrum is collaborate. And if you're in the collaborate space, what we're talking about is really partnering with the public. Now, maybe not the entire public, all 108,000 people in our community, but the people in our community who are most impacted, who want to roll up their sleeves and work with us because a project has that much of a potential to affect their lives. If we're in the collaborate space, we're actually agreeing to work together to come up with solutions, and council, the decision makers, are agreeing to implement the recommendations of the group to the maximum extent possible. So that's a pretty significant commitment, and it's hopefully going to address some of the issues and concerns we've heard from the public that council's already made up their mind, or this is already a baked idea, and why are you even asking us? If it's a baked idea, we're not going to ask. I mean, we want to be really clear about we're engaging in places where that input can have a solid effect on the outcome. One example of how we might collaborate is actually something that we do quite a bit right now, which is working groups, where you have community members perhaps who have technical expertise or who represent different stakeholder groups and can be liaisons with those stakeholder groups coming together to address issues. And I anticipate that we would continue with that approach, particularly if we're looking to involve or collaborate with our community.
Okay, so now that you've explained the 9-step process and the engagement spectrum, I have the same question. Is this what the ideal engagement process is going to look like for every project?
It's going to look like this for as many projects as we can, but we have to pace ourselves. The reality is that we're going to be creating a program and trying to do good engagement and follow the hallmarks of the program at the same time. And so there's going to be some times where we're going to try something new and it's not going to work, and that's okay because we want to be innovative in our approach and creative in how we deliver the best engagement opportunities to the city. One thing I want to say is I get the question of how will this impact me as a city employee? So this plan, this new program, is really likely to have a direct impact on about 20% of our city employees. That's the estimate I have for people who actually have job responsibilities for planning good engagement. And we're going to be asking them to do some things different and collaborating with people across the organization. However, it's important to understand that a whole lot more of you have engagements with community members and interactions on the front lines. And those engagement and opportunities really matter too. Because if you have a positive interaction with somebody when they're asking you a question at a rec center front desk, for example, they're more likely to believe in the credibility of the city. So we all have a role to play in making sure that people feel like they're being heard by the city and served by the city.
So if we're not doing the exact same process, but we're kind of using the engagement spectrum to guide that, how is staff going to know where on the spectrum a particular project is?
Good question. So we're anticipating that we're going to use a consultation type coaching approach where there's going to be myself, and then the city is also going to hire an engagement specialist. We're also going to leverage a really great group of employees that got together at the beginning of this year, actually. It's about 25 city employees, some of whom have outreach or engagement as a part of their job functions. Others don't have a lot of it, but they're really passionate and interested in trying to improve our programs around this. So it's called the Engagement Coordination Committee. We meet monthly. We've already done some really cool things. It was out of this committee, for example, that the What's Up Boulder Information Fair idea came to be. That was a really successful event we had in October. But this committee in 2018 is agreeing that for every month, each member will give 5 to 8 hours as a part of their work plan, not only to the engagement that they're already doing for part of their job, but to try to further the citywide effort. So you might have an opportunity to meet with somebody, say you're in the housing division. Somebody from the library might come over and talk with you as you're starting to formulate your engagement plan, just to make sure you're asking the right questions. We're also going to try to have a deeper facilitation bench so that people can facilitate in a way that's more objective. If you're not involved in a project, you might be able to facilitate a process to get public feedback without being put in a difficult position if you also have to give a technical or staff recommendation later. So we're anticipating this is going to be a collaborative approach. This is certainly something that not one or two people can achieve by ourselves. And in fact, this video, which is, I hope you enjoyed it, sort of an oversimplified example of what can happen. Anybody who's on that team in that video, any of those folks, coach in a very effective way, and I'm really grateful to have that kind of collaboration in our city. The other thing I want to say is the video does kind of poke fun at some of the opportunities or scenarios we've had where things have not gone well. We have also had some very good engagement in the city. We're coming from a place of building on a solid foundation, which is a really great position to be in. We're also coming from a place where staff was already very aligned with what the public participation working group was saying we needed to do. So that's great. There's a symbiotic relationship there, and I'm really eager to see what we can achieve together.
So thank you for that very thorough rundown, and we'll be looking forward to the next video to see how successful the teams become.
Thanks, Patrick.
So now we're going to head into the on-the-job segment. I think all of you know that snow season doesn't really start, or winter doesn't really start for another 2 weeks. But in the city of Boulder, it actually starts around Labor Day. One of the things that always happens around Labor Day is that I get to sign a lot of contracts. And among the contracts I sign is the one where we purchase materials to put on the road to help in the clearing of snow. Whenever I get that, it's usually the end of August, early September, I'm like, oh no, here it comes. But today we're going to be talking with one of our great employees that is indispensable to us during the times of the snow. And I hope that you will welcome and learn a lot from John Gomez, who's one of our snowplow drivers in Public Works. He's on the job to tell us what it's like to battle Boulder's snow.
My name's John Gomez. I do irrigation for the city of Boulder. I like being in a big truck, plowing snow. I like watching the snow. I like watching the snow in my strobe lights. During the winters, I snowplow. We have so many different environments in Boulder we have to look for and plow. From mountain, kind of like hillsides, to straight up and down roads, bridges, just big flat areas in Heatherwood and Gun Barrel. A typical day when you start when you're snow plowing is you come in on your shift today. This time it'll be 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. You talk to your alternate driver first. That's very important. Then you start your walk around on your vehicle. You walk around, make sure you have material, make sure your gate's set right, make sure all your lights work, make sure you ain't got no problems with the truck, and then off you go. Go to your route and start plowing. There's about 25 people on shift every time. You got 2 people in dispatch. You got everybody out in the trucks plowing, and someone here on the loader filling trucks now. I mean, that's really helpful. You don't have to get out of your truck to fill up your truck anymore. It's so nice to be a part of that because they've helped you a million times before. I really like just doing the work. It eats up a whole 12-hour shift like it's standing still. You're out there clearing roads for not just ambulances, buses, pedestrians, and it's crazy that we have that kind of environment in the city of Boulder, where at 2 in the morning you got bike riders that you got to be careful with, and runners and joggers, and so clearing that for them and making it a good time for them, making an easier pass for them is pretty interesting. And you get a lot of smiling faces when you do push through stuff that hasn't been done in a while. That's what I do. Last year I did a lot of residentials, like cul-de-sacs, high roads, and stuff like that. And those people appreciate it a ton. We have a special needs dad and son that call us every year and just thank us up and down because he's got to go to the hospital like 3 times a month, and it's always in the middle of the night, and we're always by his house to clean it, So just knowing the town and knowing Boulder and knowing who needs what and put it where is what I like doing. We really do a lot for the citizens around here.
I honestly love that video. I think it's so awesome that one of our employees, a frontline employee, really, really cares and knows the residents that he serves directly. And the special needs dad situation is just really heartwarming. So thanks to our snowplow drivers, thanks to all of you that clear the snow from our bike paths and from our park paths. You're really making a difference for our community, and we really appreciate it. So on to some more thanks to city employees. So as many of you know, one of my very favorite things every year is the Vision and Values Award ceremony, and I couldn't be there this year. So I want to thank Patrick, you and your team for the great video that helped explain that I had to be elsewhere, and I really missed it, so I'm so sad. But I want to give my special thanks to all of the people that got awards this year. So we had 200 Service Award honorees, 137 Values Award nominees, and 31 employees who were the recipients of the Values Awards for 8 very different projects. So first, for collaboration, the Chautauqua Access Management Plan, our CAMP team, came up with incredible solutions for what Mike Sweeney aptly called a wicked problem, one that we've been working on for decades, and I think we had a really great solution there and really great work across department lines. Then we had the lifeguard and fire training team from Parks and Rec and Fire Rescue. They actually met up at a well-being fair and started just talking about how they could serve residents better. And it ended up in some training opportunities for them, and ultimately a training program that helped save a life at one of our local pools. Then for customer service, thank you to Eric Swanson from our affordable housing program. He became the spirit and embodiment of delivering really great customer experience. The North Boulder Corner Library team members realized the potential to bring new energy and new life to a part of our community that was really craving library services, and they've turned what was sort of no library services into one of the areas in which we have the most attendance, the most books checked out. They are really rocking it up there in North Boulder, so thanks for that. And then our Parks and Athletics team came up with a really cool money-saving solution at the ball fields that shows that if you just think a little bit about maybe changing a few things, you can really have an innovative solution that really helps the city, so thanks to them. Kimberly Rankin manages our building performance program. She has a really tough job dealing with people who are going to have to spend a bunch of money to fulfill the requirements that the city of Boulder has, and she takes that on with great integrity and meets those challenges every single day, so thank you, Kimberly. Adam Gaylord from Open Space and Mountain Parks showed respect, leadership, and support when he stepped up to help his coworkers who were struggling with parental type issues and support issues. So thank you so much to Adam for that. And finally, Shannon Olibaugh, who is our public information officer for police and fire. I actually was at the meeting that Shannon was sort of the facilitator of in North Boulder, where we had people talking about sexually violent predators. And there was an angry, angry crowd of about 200 people, and she did an amazing job showing really great respect for all of them. So all of the stories that we received were incredible for all the employees. It makes me really proud to be here every day and to work with all of you because you are amazing leaders. So thank you so much to your commitment to our values and to our vision for service excellence for an inspired future.
And if you missed the vision and values, the video is on Boulder at Work, and there are some great videos talking about individual accomplishments. And a great video of Jane driving around the city that kind of made me think she might be the snowplow operator as well.
It was all fake. And so what I heard later is
I wasn't going to tell him that.
well, yeah, so here's what I have heard later, because I couldn't be there, right? And so you're watching this video, and you see me apparently driving. The phone rings, and I pick it up and start answering it as I'm still driving, which is like such a big no-no. Actually, we were stopped, and it was supposed to show that we were stopped to let David out, but apparently that it didn't look like that. So I don't answer my phone. I just want you to know that I don't.
It was all done on the green screen.
Right.
Anyway, we have one more shout out today, and it's to Will Cheney, who's a crew leader with OSMP, and for all of his team. And we found out about it because a constituent sent us in a letter. So let me just read the letter we received. Yesterday, we were hiking north on Mesa Trail with 5 children from NCAR Trailhead. We stopped for lunch, and they inadvertently put their backpacks near a wasp nest as they climbed up on a rock. Bad situation. So, several of the children were stung multiple times, and their screams could be heard by the OSMP staff working nearby. Will came up to check on us and offered first aid items. Then he assessed the situation and made a few suggestions, including waiting a few hours until the wasps were settled before trying to retrieve our backpacks. Since the kids were very upset and uncomfortable, he offered to retrieve them at the end of his shift if we were okay leaving them there. We later met the crew at the gate and were so grateful that they were able to get backpacks back to us. This message is not only to express our gratitude to Will and his coworkers, but also to let their supervisors know that their staff went above and beyond to help us when nobody else was watching. So our thanks to Will Cheney and the others for a job well done and putting the customer's experience first. Your small acts of kindness based on knowing the right thing to do made a lasting impression on members of our community. So we'll stand up, take a bow.
Yay, thank you.
And I assume you didn't get stung in the process? No. Okay. Well, we're about out of time for today's meeting, but just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements and reminders to share.
So the first thing to remind everyone is that as we near the end of the year and begin the new year, we're starting to look at performance reviews. So this is an opportunity and a great time for you to take a look back at the goals that you had set for 2017. How are they going? What are your challenges for the new year? So take a look at that and start preparing for that. In January and February, then we will be talking with our supervisors about what worked well and what we can improve for 2018. And we really are encouraging supervisors and managers to really focus on meaningful conversations with employees. Performance reviews are really about what went well in the last year and just ways that we can continuously improve in the new year. So let's have a really positive experience this year with our performance evaluations.
And then next Friday, we have 2 events to entertain our employees with. We found out over the summer that there was a great opportunity to connect with the community through theater. And so staff met with Modus Theater and heard that their performers would really like to perform for local government, and most of all, they'd like to perform for the city and county of Boulder. And so our staff went together to arrange for that performance, and it's going to be offered to both Boulder County through their Inclusive and Diversity Officer and partnering with ours to all employees over in the Boulder Canyon Theater on Friday.
And so all employees are invited to attend one of the 2 performances by Salsa La Torilla in the Boulder Library's Canyon Theater on December 15th. And I do want you to know, I have seen this already. I saw it about a year ago. It is really powerful and a lovely experience, both kind of sad and joyful all at the same time. It's a good holiday event even. So there are 2 showings. They are at noon and 2 p.m. and there's discussion and homemade salsa in between. So you'll have the opportunity to talk with the performers about their story and just to interact with some members of our community that maybe have a different experience in life than some of us do. So if you'd like to attend, please register through Eventbrite. There's a banner running on our homepage at Boulder at Work, and that will take you to the link.
Okay, and then our last announcement is we are again doing a gift card drive to help less fortunate folks in our community. So Human Services is collecting those gift cards through December 10 at 11 different city locations, which are up on the screen. And really any amount of money is helpful to contribute. It all goes into a pot and gets distributed across the community. And I think that's all the information we have for our all staff this time. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for an incredible year, and I hope that you have some time off between now and the end of the year during the holidays to spend time with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends. Have a great end of 2017 and off to an incredible 2018. We'll see you then.